You have to find the right place to come in and out of that music. It's pretty good. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to College Football Mafia Network's Big Freaking Fridays. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and with me are contributors and partners in Snare. We have Immaculate back with us for a second time this week. Very, very grateful to have him here. Moen, what are we looking at tonight?
Looking at Dr. Love right over here.
Dr. Love.
One of my favorites.
Okay. We love Dr. Love, I think is the best way to say it. And then, of course, Wild Ute of Wild Ute University. I hope everybody's having a good day. Friday, this hasn't been such a good day for me. It was kind of sucky for BYU fans, but, life does go on, and we'll turn the page and take that deadly walk down the recruit trail where everybody leaves in the portal. That's the worst thing with college basketball, especially. I want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to be talking headline news, ACC, Florida State, and everything that's happened with the ACC, Big Ten, and the SEC in the conversations. We're going to talk what is that new thing going to be once Florida State and Clemson leaves. We have a lot of people that have guessed some thoughts about that. We'll talk about some tweets that we came across. And then basically everything else is going to come from you guys. You guys let us know your questions. If you're a subscriber, actually, I'd ask everybody to become a subscriber on YouTube. Follow us all on Twitter. Turn on your notifications. And then last but not least, make sure that you consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia family. Here's the best way to go about doing that.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
Thank you, Moen, very much. That's a wonderful video. We thank you for putting that together. And I hope that helps everybody. We get questions every week. How do I become a member? What do I need to do? That short video tells you how to do it. Also, I will quickly show you where that looks like on the webpage itself. I can do that in a really quick 1, 2, 3 as we talk about and move into Wild Ute University, Moen Rants, the Coos Corner, and his videos that he's shared with us. Let's run through that really quick. So bring it up to the main page. Here we go. So here's our College Football Mafia main page. If you want to become a member, hit that join button and come with us. We're on a journey where we share college inside information with you guys as we get it, and we break down, more importantly, information that comes across to us that really, like, does Syracuse belong in the Big 12? That's coming. We've already built out. Here's our best one right now, and the one that most people are seeing is this perfect marriage. Why Wild Ute University perfect marriage? Why Louisville is the, how does that finish? Why Louisville is the what, Ute?
It's the perfect fit, perfect marriage. Why Louisville is the number one target, should be the number one target, realistic target for the Big 12 conference. Really, it's a thing of beauty right there.
And the detail in that is fantastic. There leaves no stone unturned.
Check that out. If you haven't seen that video, watch that video. And it's hard to argue that they're not really that first ad for the Big 12 if the Big 12 gets a shot at them. So got to get them.
I love it. You can see right here, that's a members only video. We put videos into lockdown for an indeterminate amount of time for those members. We want to make sure they have the information before everybody else. We're not really talking about how long those end any longer. So if you want to watch those videos, we encourage you to become a member of the Mafia family. Other than that, let's get back to why we're actually here. So I've already told you I'm kind of bummed, so I'm not going to be very chatty today. So I'm going to be relying on the fans that are watching. They're going to give us super chats. They're going to give us comments and questions. And members obviously have their comments favored over everybody else except for a super chat. All right. Ute, why don't you tell me how you're feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great. It's Friday night, the work week's over. I'm so stoked to be here talking about college football. A lot to talk about here. ACC updates, repercussions. I want to open up a conversation later about UConn again, and UConn and how and why UConn wants to stay, in its place and not move anywhere, and why that makes sense, and other topics that are on your mind too.
All right, very good. Moen, what's going on with you, Dr. Love?
Fridays. Got a Georgia Tech on Fridays. Cheers.
Cheers.
Georgia Tech on Fridays. Okay, that'll leave you, Immaculate. Take us home. What are we talking about that's most important in your mind tonight?
Well, I think what we're seeing is kind of an overall trend and change in talking points. And sometimes that can be hard to pick up on. But what we're seeing is I think ESPN is beginning to pressure the ACC. Whether you believe what some folks are saying or not, it certainly makes sense that they would after that Florida case, in which you've been on top of this week, and kind of interested in seeing what you guys have to say on that. I think that that ruling in Tallahassee was very important for this, so we might be seeing some movement.
All right, very good. I want to follow up on that comment. Thank you very much for bringing that back up, Immaculate. So we did a video on Wednesday night with the great Doug Rohan. We're doing some edits on that video. There was a couple things that I wanted to make sure we got right. So as soon as we have those edits complete, we're going to be republishing that video. We will all link to it. You'll be able to see it. But it literally is one of the best interviews that I think Doug has done. Answers some really key questions about where we are right now. Let's see here. Where do I want to go? There's so much to talk about. Let's go with your story, Moen. What is this link, this FTC link? Let me bring that up.
Well, this is going to have to go back to this stupid rumor that ESPN is going to work somehow to make the ACC give up Florida State and Clemson so the SEC can have them. And then ESPN's going to give 50% of the game. It's a dumb rumor.
Let me just bring up the source material so everybody knows what we're talking about. I saw it and I put it out to the ether world. I wanted to generate some conversation. Immaculate was part of that. This is a post. Let me share it again from Crazy Uncle Lou, big contributor in the social media space on YouTube. Certainly have respect for all the work that he's done. But this is what he put out this morning, and I'll just read it really quick, and then back to you, Moen. Clemson and FSU will be in the SEC in the 25-26 seasons. Rest of the ACC teams will remain. The ACC will retain 50% of Clemson and FSU's TV money through 2036. The only way that happens is if they negotiated that. So FSU and Clemson will make more in the SEC than they currently make in the ACC, but it will be half of what the rest of the SEC teams make through 2036, which makes absolutely no sense. As part of his FSU and Clemson will each pay $150 million to exit the ACC, and they're getting half the money. So, again, how does that make any sense, Owen?
That does not make sense. It also does not make sense if you go back to the original rumor that ESPN was orchestrating all this.
Right.
Because it's a clear violation of the antitrust laws, and you can't just say lol okay and just ignore the 1890 Sherman Act on antitrust. I don't know who Crazy Uncle Lou is. But,
Crazy Uncle Lou.
That's Uncle Lou.
You need to check out Uncle Lou.
He's an SEC content guy.
Very entertaining. He's very entertaining, and I respect the hard work that he puts in. By the way, I took that tweet from Crazy Uncle Lou, and I just put the reference in our comment section. Go ahead and bring it up while you're watching the show, because we're going to be flashing back and forth to it. Not going to leave it on the screen very often. But so let me really quick before you're done then, Moen, let me bring back this FTC article. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically what it boils down to is the suggestion is a market allocation, customer allocation scheme. It's where two competitors, in this case it's the SEC and the ACC, through an intermediate ESPN, are basically allocating customers and eliminating competition.
Okay.
And this is the law. It's market division or customer allocation. I assure you this is a thing. You cannot do this. Several companies have been sued for this. Disney's already in the middle of antitrust issues with their acquisition of Fox Studios. They're not going to go for 2 schools into the SEC and wave their dick at the United States federal government. I'm sorry, people. It's not going to happen. That's why it's not going to happen. There is no law, okay? It's law, okay? Law, okay? You can't just skirt around it. I'm sorry. So get that idea of conference swapping out of your head. It ain't happening.
And when it comes to the swinging, you can trust Dr. Love.
That's
Hang on,
right.
just really quick before, and you in the background, I don't know if you can do the math really quick, but on the back of a napkin, can you do the math to say they both pay $150 million out? They lose half of their TV rights to the ACC in perpetuity till 2036, and they're paid half as much. What that payout would actually look like for Clemson and Florida State. And while you're doing that, let me do some shout outs, because that number I think is going to be like 10 million or something. It's not going to be very big. Let's get to some shout outs really quick. Joaquin Morales, Buckshot Kid, Timothy Green. I just don't have the time to read these all right now, guys. We'll get back to comments in a little bit later in the show. Antoine Codes is here, the big Lubbock. Jan Holk, all the way from Slovenia. Thank you very much for being here, Jan. One of the most loyal members we have had around, actually. Joaquin Morales has had a bad day. I just wanted to call out him. He had to put down a service dog. We feel for you, Joaquin. I saw that note when I was getting ready for the show and feel really bad about that. I hope you and your family are doing okay. That's horrible when you have to do that. He also says smash the like button, so he knows where his priorities are for sure. Caleb Ramirez, he and I have become friends on Twitter. It's been a lot of fun. Nice to have you here, Caleb. Let's see, really quick. Movie Time Blues. It's been a minute since we've seen you, Movie Time Blues. Good to have you back. ESPN Blaze Dirty, he says. Sergeant Pickles, one of our creators, is here. Expedition Greg, Daniel Gygax, Richard Brookins, who's, I believe, new to the show. Welcome, Richard. Make sure you subscribe to us and follow us on Twitter. Shonsky, I hope you had fun at our lunch, Sean. That was I had a lot of fun doing that. Jim F. says howdy. Don from Kansas. Hello, everyone. I like how everybody's so nice when they come in. Hello, how you doing? That's how you build a community right there. Scrappin' Wolf, not logical.
Then following up.
And see if there's anybody else that we can put in. Don from Jan Hulk, I think. Oh, here we go. Patrick is signed in, number 23 liked. You know what that means?
He's got 23 likes on there.
Oh, 23 likes. Okay. Jamie Thornton. Good to see you, Jamie. Oh, my gosh, he's back. Is that immaculate or a really good Elvis impersonator?
Just no singing. No singing involved.
No singing. Michelle Weintraub, a recently minted member of the Mafia family. Thank you for being here, Michelle. Hey, everyone. And then Replica. It's going to be the last shout out we do. Greetings from 5 o'clock traffic. Oh, I'm so glad.
Oh gosh. God.
Depending on where you live, Replica, tell us where you live, because all of us can share the same misery of that. All right, you had 3 minutes.
All right, let's talk about this. Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit more. Okay, so the ACC, I'm estimating Florida State and the ACC, so current, they're getting about $35 to $40 million in media rights distributions, because they're getting a little bit more of a cut for Florida State, and they get $12 million CFP payouts. So you're looking at between 47 to $52 million a year in total payouts from the ACC. The SEC, under the new media deal, pays out $69 million in media rights to each team and $21 million in college football playoff money, so around $90 million. So even if Florida State were to take half a share in the SEC, it would be slightly less than the ACC. But really, when you do the long-term math, it's a no-brainer to do that. Absolutely, for the Noles. I mean, from the Noles perspective and stuff. So it actually wouldn't be as much of a pay cut as you'd imagine. If they're getting 50% of the revenue, it's not what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, if we just read what his tweet says, FSU.
Yeah, I mean, like from Florida State's perspective, I mean, it's kind of a wash.
But you pay $150 million. When does that actually start to pay back? When do they start making money after they paid $150 million to leave?
So it depend on like the length and like the structure of the deal and stuff, but it could take
Right.
several years to pay that 150 off. But
Okay.
like these conference realignment decisions, these are like, 50-year decisions. So that's
Right.
such a no-brainer to do still. Like honestly, doing any type of moderate long-term math. In the short run, they're not going to make as much for the first couple of years, but nobody cares about that because they see
So
the
it's
long-term
not
play.
as bad as I thought. That does
No,
surprise me.
it's not.
Yeah, I thought it would pay off. I thought it would be a longer term, maybe get you closer to 31 or 32 before that actually started making money. So there's a little bit of reason there if you're willing to play the long game, the 50-year decision, like you just said, you.
It's because the
Um,
payout, though, the college football playoff payouts, if they get that same
right.
amount as everybody else in the SEC, that's a big deal right there. Then, like, you kind of forget, but it's double what the ACC is getting. Essentially.
Okay.
Okay.
Now do the math. How would it look if they just joined the Big Ten as a full partner?
As a full member,
Full member.
payouts going to be in a year and a half.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
and then I mean, your return on that decision is going to be absolutely astronomical.
So let's reset that. Reset what
Mhm.
Moen just said. All that sounds great and everything. They'll make a little more money in the SEC over
Sure.
time. Moen's statement is, what the hell are you doing when you could just make the decision, pay the out, even if it's $300 million, pay the out, you're still better off in 5 years in the Big Ten.
Oh yeah,
Look, if
absolutely.
the ESPN was really making that deal to them, they should have made that deal before the hearing in Florida.
Right.
Doing it afterwards just shows that now they're in a perceived position of weakness, and FSU is not going to take that. I mean, yes, it's more money they're making now, but it's half of what they could make if they don't take that. And if they feel like they've got the upper hand, why do it?
It's fair enough reason. Immaculate, you engaged on there with, I think, even Uncle Lou.
Uncle Lou.
Yeah, a couple times. What was your takeaway from that?
I mean, Uncle Lou, I wasn't super familiar with him, but I had people bring him up to me a little while back, and so I looked into it. I would say that there's a good shot that he probably does have some type of low-level connections. I would not be surprised at all if he was told that. That does not necessarily mean like this is in the works, this is happening. To me, remember, we got this with the CFP, it's not a new thing. The new term is called socialization. They like to use the internets now to get that they can actually find that they can exert pressure from below just as much as from above. By getting a lot of little people to exert pressure, you can actually get more pressure than from a few people from above.
Right.
And that's what I think this is. This is them putting this out there because, like Moen says, they can't do this themselves. They can't approach, they can't talk, they can't make this type of a pitch. But if they can get it out there in public that this is possible, then maybe Florida State reaches out to them and says, is this for real? So it almost feels like they're fishing. Like they're putting out a lure, and maybe guys like Uncle Lou and the dude with whomever talked with him. Maybe that's what's going on. Is it's a little bit of socialization going on. We'll see.
So is there a final takeaway? If we do the really quick around the table, what's your takeaway?
First negotiation option. This is like if you're sitting at a negotiation table. And ESPN, their first thing they're going to tell you, it's not going to be exactly what they want. It's going to be more than what they even expect to get. That's what that looks like to me. Like if they could have absolutely everything they possibly wanted and a little bit more, it would be that. So that's their first foray into that negotiation. In my opinion.
Okay. Let's get right here, bang, right out of the gate. Moen, what do we got going here?
The Cleveland Rocks gifted us 5 members to the College Football Mafia membership.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
Timothy Green, Scott Schrader, Mosito, Dan Miter, and Bob Swanger were all gifted those memberships by Cleveland Rocks. Thank you very much, Cleveland Rocks. Make sure if you received a gifted membership in the community chat, make sure you tell thank you to Cleveland Rocks. They're a terrific supporter, big Ohio State fan. They're getting ready for the spring game tomorrow. I think they're back in Ohio and they're dealing with the 40-mile-an-hour winds and the rain.
Oh, wow. I really appreciate all the members that we have, and you guys are great. One thing that Cleveland Rocks and several other people, I don't want to go through and name all, that these are people that have given memberships to many, many visitors on our shows. And I just want to make sure everybody realizes, one, how big of a deal that is, how much we appreciate that. And make sure you thank them in the comment section, especially if you did it quicker than not, that's even better. And then lastly, if you receive a gift membership, consider paying it forward, paying for somebody else's membership. That's how we're going to continue to grow our family here, our Mafia family, and we want to encourage everybody to do that. So Cleveland Rocks, thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate it. We also, in the middle there, got a super chat from Sergeant Pickles, a member and a contributor to the College Football Mafia Network. Says,
cheers.
Open a cold one for the Ramblin' Wreck from, and that's what, cheers and
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. Okay. Drinking game, Georgia Tech. You've heard it several times. Say that right now if you're participating in that. Make sure you don't drink and drive afterward. I really don't want to hear about that, but enjoy it while you're watching the show for sure. If you do come across the word the words Georgia Tech, make sure you small swigs.
No unless it's replica and you're in rush hour traffic in Dallas.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
you don't
that.
get to join, brother. But when you said that I felt that pain right there. That's tough.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Salt Lake, it's terrible.
Phoenix,
it sucks. Yeah, traffic
Phoenix
sucks
at 5 p.m. No, thank you.
I-15, 215 Joiner area is just the worst in the world. Okay, and then Jamie Thornton, who we've been commiserating. She caught my comment about BYU, so everybody knows, and probably everybody knows by now. But Mark Pope, the Kentucky graduate, he won a national championship at Kentucky in '96. He's been the coach at BYU for 5 years. The men's basketball team has left BYU to join Kentucky, and now BYU, just like every other school that loses a coach, is scrambling. You want to get the coach hired as quickly as possible, make it as high profile as possible, and then get with those recruits and get with those players. Otherwise, you might have a coach that is able to coach a team of like 6 people because people leave. That part of the transfer thing, or I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of like the transfer deal where the minute you change a coach, you lose the whole team. There's something wrong with that in my mind. And I say that for any school, not just BYU. I think that's broken. Like what happened to Arizona when Jed Fish left. What happened to Washington? Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible situation to just basically give everybody a free 30 days. And the 30 days is ridiculous. 30. Mm-hmm. Why can't you make it like 2 weeks? If you can't find a place to go in 2 weeks, you probably should stay. That really bugs me. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse there.
Hey, Nate, let's go back to the conversation now that we were having, the Uncle Lou conversation here.
Absolutely.
About Clemson and Florida State going to the SEC and maybe ESPN working out some secret deal, and Moan's already blown that up. But another factor that's just completely asinine to me is like, why in the world would UNC and Miami accept that? Like, seriously, like, do they not have landing spots elsewhere? Like, do they want to get stuck in a watered-down ACC without Florida State and Clemson?
I don't think so.
Why in the world would UNC want that? Like, I know they've got a Wolfpack backpack on them, but still, like, they're going to they got to make more money, right? Like, and then Miami, like, what in the world would Miami be doing? They're not going to accept that. There's no way that works. So that's another factor that no one's talking about. It's like, why? What's in it for them?
Maybe ESPN and SEC are trying to split up the backpack from the Tar Heel. Maybe they're trying to be like, oh, sorry, that's not happening. We're just going to try and push Florida State and Clemson only. Not that it's going to work, but just looking for angles about what they might be trying to do. I mean, these are negotiations. They have multiple rounds. Maybe this is some pressure on North Carolina or on their board of governors, to be more precise.
It could be like that's like the whole theory. Like, where's that hole? Like, where does that make North Carolina? How does that make North Carolina?
No, it's a very good point.
Money, right? Like, it's not like they don't have options.
like, why aren't they involved in this? Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And like, and an easy way to stifle this is if like Miami or UNC just throws out a lawsuit, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this theory's blown up. It already is stupid, but like it's blown up. So yeah, I don't know how this even got a lot of traction, like discussion traction. It makes zero sense.
We've got who's putting comments up? It's not me.
Oh, I think Rock and Rant maybe wanted to star his own comment.
Okay, so Rock and Rant, just so everybody knows, he's the man behind the curtain tonight.
Privileges.
He's going to help us. I think he's been given too much power is what's happened. So Rock and Rant, generally, I'm the only one who puts up comments. So I appreciate you flagging it, though.
There we go, though, right?
Hey.
Hey, look, these things happen, right? Anyway, let's read it since he's put it up here. There's not a chance UNC and Miami will be like, thank you, sir, ESPN. May we have another lower deal and fond farewell, FSU and Clemson. So that just answers exactly what you was saying.
Yeah.
All right.
That deal makes sense for Wake Forest, but not
Boston College.
UNC.
Yeah.
And a Boston College and a
yeah,
Stanford, right?
True.
But like,
that's
come
very
on.
True. So this just popped, actually. I got another thing. Unless you guys want to talk about this anymore, something just broke. Dennis Dodd put out an article that friend of the show, Greg Flugar, commented on. You guys, can I move on to another topic? You guys want to talk about that anymore? All right.
You got the wheel.
So I do, but I want to make sure everybody's on
everybody's
on the bus. Okay. So Greg just posted this. Obviously, peek around the corner. Greg Flugar, friend of the show. I like to call him a friend of mine personally. He's replying to a Dennis Dodd article. I'll put the link to this, and you can get the Dennis Dodd article link from that. But this is I know, don't worry about it. Immaculate. This is the gist of what this comment says. Let me go back. Why did it go big? All right. Basically, Dennis Dodd is saying in this article, deep down, could maybe possibly happen in 2031. What could that be? That would be a super league. All this talk about super leagues for the last 3 years. Now maybe they're starting to actually put some structure around it, and it's not just rumor. This is a quote from the article that Dennis Dodd wrote. The idea of creating a super league format in college football is doable and brilliant in 2031. That's right in the time frame where current media rights contracts for major conferences, that would be the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC is in 2031-32 or 32-33. Anyway, right there. That's the right time frame for conferences, and the college football playoff will be expiring around the same time. It's called coterminous. Do you guys know that word? That's one I don't know.
Coterminous.
Coterminous, which is derived from the Latin word for sharing a common boundary. That's interesting. That just came out in the last few minutes. I like to think that we're on top of this news when it pops out. What do you guys think about that? First thoughts about that article by itself?
Super League timelines. Yeah, the Super League timeline, is that going to be in 8 to 10 years, or is that going to be sooner? It's interesting, all this, like the momentum, though, and support for the Super League idea. Because not like, I guess 6 months ago, maybe that was just completely squashed by everybody to say this will never happen, such a bad idea. It's amazing how those ideas germinate and grow, and all of a sudden you're talking about it as like a legitimate idea here. But the Super League is coming, guys. And I'm going to throw out another warning, and Moan doesn't believe me, but you better believe your Indianas and your Purdue's better be scared, because they are not going to be included in the Super League. We're talking about a breakaway of the best Big Ten teams, the SEC teams, the Big 12, 1 or 2 Big 12 teams, into an elite league with high compensation that breaks football away. That's what the Super League is going to look like. And it's not going to involve your bottom feeders. And I know you're going to have some losses by big brands, but guess what? The NFL does that too. It's just the NFL model. You'll make more money doing it. So it's happening. It's just about when it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen sooner than later. I think it's going to happen within the next 10 years. Easy.
I'm going to have to go in the complete opposite direction on this, brother. To me, it just seems like a great negotiation talking point. And yes, it does line up with their contracts coming in the future. And it's going to give them a great position of leverage to the networks. And here's why. This is all very NFL-esque. The group that came out and talked about this latest version of the Super League, one of the main guys running it is an NFL guy. If you are ESPN or Fox, you hate this idea. Hate it with a passion. Let me tell you why. It's called the NFL Network. If this Super League happens, consider that there will be a Super League network. And it will pull content from them. It'll be all the best brands on top, controlling the best games, those networks are fucked. Okay, they are done for if that happens. So that's why it's a perfect negotiating play, which I get why it's being brought up, and I get why they might feed it a little bit at times, because they all are going to have that time when they're all renegotiating at the same time, and they're going to hold those networks feet over the flame. Say, we could go do this if we want to. How much are you going to pay us not to? And Fox and ESPN are going to remember when the NFL created the NFL Network and pulled like literally half of their content from them. That's what's going to be on their minds. And do they want to lose college football too? No. So this Super League to me is just a super threat. And that's the value it has. I could be wrong. You could be right. I know your analysis is solid and all your reasoning for it. When you talk about certain schools getting left out, I get the logic behind it. I, as a Big Ten guy, tend to think, I don't think they're actually going to do that to each other. But, that's why I say I think they're going to use this idea to get big money. They're not actually going to do the idea.
Yeah, here's the thinking too. Let me expand on the thinking. So I think private equity is going to get involved in college football. It's real soon here. Even like the American Conference, mentioned that they want to associate private equity. If I'm a private equity owner right now and I'm looking at how to maximize revenue and profitability, that's the way to do it, guys. That's why I say that. It's because
I get you totally.
That deal. You're packaging that deal. You're no longer have the SEC bidding its media rights versus the Big Ten versus the Big 12 anymore. You're taking the best brands there and packaging together. That's why it does it.
It's what makes it a valid threat, because it's reasonable. You look at that. If you're Fox or ESPN, you're going, we do not want this. We do not want this. So everything you're saying, I'm like, say it all. Show everyone why this is a valid idea. But just putting that out there that ESPN and Fox are not going to like it.
Yeah, they're going to have to pay more for it.
That's why pay more, like it. And so, the fear of it having a network of its own that starts to compete against them and controls all that content. Oh, that's scary stuff for them.
So the one outstanding thing for me when you say Super League, it doesn't mean two leagues. It doesn't mean just mashing the Big Ten and the SEC together. It means a remix of all the properties that are college football, which is what Ute is pointing to.
Yes.
Moen's one outlier is that could never happen because it would immediately remove lots of schools from those two master conferences. Now, this is my comment to that. Is it possible that they do this reorganization from a games perspective, a competition perspective, but for all those schools, the Vanderbilts, the Purdue's, maybe not Purdue, but Minnesota or Indiana, they still get paid. So they're not in the mix when it comes to the competition, whatever that number of team is, 40, 50, 60. They're not in that number for whatever reason, but they do still get paid. Is that at all a way that they could square that circle? Moen?
No. People bring up in 2031, it's brilliant and doable that I could hook up with Selena Gomez, guys. In 2031, brilliant and doable is the dumbest thing I've ever heard written.
Written?
Yes.
Look at the author.
Second thing. There was something in highlights for children I read that might have been stupider. But that was a really stupid comment from Dennis Dodd. I don't believe in the Super League because there already is two Super Leagues, guys. The SEC and the Big Ten. And when they devour the ACC, they're going to take the best of the ACC and they're going to be even more Super League. That's the way it is. They're not going to give that up. Why give it up? They have ownership of it now. They're not going to try and divvy up dividends and shares that they don't need to divvy up. Why are they going to cut West? I'm going to use West Virginia as an example. I love West Virginia, but why would they cut West Virginia in on that deal? They've already got the monopoly. They own Boardwalk and Park Place. They own the greens and the yellows. Why are they going to cut somebody in who's on, St. Charles Place?
Yeah, and they named two schools that were part of that group doing that, and that was West Virginia and Syracuse. Those aren't power schools.
No.
The power conferences didn't even want to talk to these people. So they know the public loves the idea. It sounds great, but it's getting the power people to sign on, which is the real problem.
I do not think the conference are going to drive. They're not going to drive this. Moan, you're not going to like to hear this, but it's your own alma mater that's going to drive this. It's like Ohio State's, your Alabamas that are sitting there being like, okay, we're getting paid really good, but why is Indiana making as much as us? We should be making twice as much as them because we're twice as much more valuable. That is a logical and that is a natural thought to have, and it's a true thought. And ultimately, they're going to say, this is ridiculous. Why is Indiana getting rich on our backs? And they're going to be the ones driving. It's going to be Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, and your big boys like your Texas that are going to facilitate the breakaway. It's not going to be orchestrated through the SEC or the Big Ten. It's going to be the schools.
Okay.
I would disagree vehemently, but respectfully.
Just remember, as athletic departments, they play against Indiana and a lot of other sports, and they know that if they cut the amount of money, like if Indiana's just gets cut way down what they're making compared to Ohio State, that those other sports are also then not going to be competitive. So,
but we're only talking about taking football out,
right? But
not talking about doing anything else with the others.
I know that, but that's money that goes to the school that funds their entire athletic department. So
Right.
you'd be cutting that down. So their whole entire athletic department is going to go down and be not competitive across the board.
Not if they get the money. Not if they get the money, like I suggested.
Right, but like what I'm saying, what like Walu's saying is, he's talking like they're not going to want to share that money, and I get what he's saying here, but I'm saying that would cause them other problems that, in just from like a pure mathematician, analyzing just the money going out, it makes sense. But when you actually start to look at what other unintended consequences that could have, it's pretty widespread. That's why as two Big Ten guys were saying, I get that, with what happened with the Pac, but I just don't see that happening in the Big Ten for other reasons. You're not wrong on the money aspect, but I'm saying there's other reasons that I think would cause them to not look to just min-max that.
All right, let's get to some comments. Great discussion, guys. This is the way we want to start off a Friday. By the way, we're halfway in. Before I do that, let me just do a quick shout out to everybody. Thank you for being here. This is our Friday, big freaking Friday show. It's a party. We're here to take comments from you and then engage with you on the show. That's what we're here to do. You didn't call to watch us talk. We're here to answer your questions. That's the reverse. So please get involved. Leave your comment or question. If you're watching the show on record, where it's already over, please give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment. We read those always, and I really want to encourage everybody to be more involved in that regard. In about 10 minutes here, I'm going to show the link for our Discord server we've just started. That's something that we want to get people involved in as well. It's a 24/7 talking college football, and I think you guys would really enjoy that. So we'll cover that in just a little bit, but I just want to encourage everybody to start giving us your best questions, because we will be going through those and trying to engage more with you, both members, non-members, members get preferential treatment, and obviously super chats. We read all those. So this is the first one, since we're still on this topic, from Mr. Ed Wayner, one of our members, very valuable member, friend of the show. I think Super League is a great concept, but I don't think 70 plus 10 teams with a single CFP doesn't make sense. In my opinion, break up FBS into 3 divisions with 3 college football championships. Is that what he means? Playoffs, and 2 ranked division champions play all FBS title game. What do you guys think of that?
I think that go ahead, Immaculate.
Go ahead. I was just responding to someone. Let's see. Yeah. I think we're on the same lines in why the 70 with 10 teams per division. It's just too perfect. Like it's great for presenting, but once you get deeper into it, it doesn't quite work as well. In terms of the FBS breaking into division, Wayner comes up with a lot of good ideas, and there's merit to this and logic to it. Whether that actually happens or something else happens, I don't know. I think we'll get more into those type of details as we get further along in this process. But it is interesting to look at ideas like this and think of it as a possibility and how this could play out.
Okay. Moen, you have any comments to this from Ed?
Ooh.
I think that it's going to be a 50-team max Super League and not an 80-team max Super League. And I think that you could have divisions. You probably will have divisions if you break that 50 teams up in however which way you want. But I'm not sure there's going to be relegation in that Super League. It would be an interesting concept if there was, if you had a couple teams relegated out of it and into it. That'd be captivating, actually. But I just don't see that really happening in college football based on like budgets of colleges and everything. They're semi-pro, but they're not pro.
Right.
So yeah, I see it being a smaller pool of Super League teams, and probably that would equate to making a difference to college football playoff for the left outs. The teams that don't make that Super League too. So there would be a playoff for them and the Super League.
Okay, Moen, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, Wilbur.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wilbur.
You don't get the. You guys
I don't have
any.
any. I have no
you don't
idea
get
what
the
you're
reference,
saying.
Mr. Ed.
No, man, I'm sorry. I don't.
It's the name of the.
It's the name of the guy who owns the
Your
talk
follower.
From the 50s.
Wilbur.
I know who you're
Yeah,
talking
I
about.
know what he's talking about.
All right. Jamie Thornton, definitely friend of the show, says the blackmail theory by ESPN. ESPN is telling Jim Phillips, let FSU and Clemson go to the SEC and we will renew. Otherwise, you will have no media deal. That's the theory. I love it. More ESPN getting down and dirty sounds like, and then it trailed off. What do you guys think about that? I mean, she's cutting right to the chase with that, right?
I mean, this is essentially why ESPN wouldn't opt in. One, you don't do your negotiating while your business partner is at their strongest if they're about to become much weaker. Two, it's the ultimate leverage point. I mean, people talk about composition clause for the ACC. That means jack squat when you compare it to ESPN can say, oh, composition clause this, we're not opting in. Now what? It's time to renegotiate. And then what's the ACC going to do? Say no? So she's right. I mean, blackmail is a strong term, but it's a very strong negotiating point that really isn't undone unless ESPN just foolishly says they're opting in or they're not opting in. Right now, just not saying anything at all gives them a lot of strength.
Anybody else?
Is ESPN making more money doing this? Just thinking, okay, we see it from like the Florida State side. We see it from the ACC side. Like, who's winning here? So is ESPN winning here? Like, let's think about that for a second.
We did that analysis last summer before, they decided not to do anything in August. We put that math together. We could go back and look at one of those shows but I distinctly remember you saying because the viewership numbers will go up when they are in the Big or the SEC, that they would, whoever the controlling network would definitely be ahead if they brought them in. ESPN, even though they'd be paying more for them to be in the conference, they would be making much more money because there's more eyes on the games.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember that.
And they're not competing against an SEC game.
Right.
Like when you're an ACC team, you're likely on ESPN2, and there's probably a SEC game on ABC and ESPN. And you've then got your Big Ten games on CBS, NBC, Fox. You're third, fourth in row for ratings. So by moving to the SEC alone, your Virginia Techs and whoever else, they'd get much better ratings.
Wouldn't it be logical to say that if FSU left the conference, that Virginia Tech, if they stayed, would get worse ratings too? Much worse ratings.
Yes.
And they already have really bad ratings.
Yes,
Yeah.
because the one team that gets some good ratings is gone. Well,
imagine those guys like sitting in a conference without Florida State and Clemson for 7 years. Like, what kind of media deal they would warrant the next?
The idea that they're going to get the same deal that ESPN offered them to pay them the exact same without Florida State and Clemson, to me, is just like, that's laughable. They're pulling your leg if they're actually telling you that. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah,
right.
Blackmail is a terrible word. Let's call it extortion.
Okay.
Much more mafia-like.
This is the mafia. Yeah, extortion is definitely RICO. We can start talking RICO. That'd be good. How about Georgia Tech? Should we say Georgia Tech 3 or 4 times?
Georgia Tech.
Hit it.
Tech.
We're 45 minutes
Oof.
into this bad boy, and I want to make sure we're touching all bases. All right, really
I'm
quick.
curious
I wanna,
for Jamie and other SEC fans in the community. Do you want Clemson, Florida State in conference? Is that a value add for existing members? From an Arkansas fan perspective, from a Texas fan perspective, let us know your thoughts.
Thank you, Ute, for doing that. I appreciate that. Jamie's really active, obviously being an Arkansas fan, so she will let us know. I guarantee you. Really quick, I want to just pause. I'm going to post the link to our Discord server. What we're trying to do is after shows, so that when these shows are over, we move to maybe a half hour after show to talk more questions and answers once our shows end on YouTube. Depending on our bandwidth from week to week, that might be 1 or 3 of us or 4 of us. I think Rock and Rant might have time tomorrow after this show. I obviously on Fridays have a hard cap at 9 Eastern, but I want to encourage everybody, take that link, sign up for our Discord, and get into the conversations. There's some really good conversations in there on realignment, on just how college football works, all the lawsuits. What am I missing? Wild Ute University. We've got voice channels in there where you guys can get in and discuss things. And it's just getting more and more people. I think we've gone up to 50 people this week. And I'd like to be at 200 in a couple weeks. So take that link. Please sign up. It takes 3 minutes to sign up for a Discord account and go from there. All right. Our next comment from, Jim F. says, in reply to Jamie Thornton, I could see Nebraska going to the SEC, sort of change of topics a little bit, seeing mentions that they are afraid that their lack of AAU could be used against them. We all know better when we see where FSU goes. We will know better once we see where FSU goes. I would just add a caveat to that. Aren't we still talking about giant rumors, or has it been confirmed that they've actually been served with a letter?
No.
Nothing.
And this, in my opinion, is being used as in a political way within Nebraska. Meaning, by within Nebraska, within the whole Nebraska system, there's other campuses. One of the big ones is University of Nebraska Medical Center. That's why they got kicked out of the AAU, because that medical center was not part of Maine, Nebraska. They're operating independently of each other. They like to see it operating under one tent, so that way it can be easily kind of used and connected with. To me, what's going on here is kind of fear, like saying we're going to get kicked out if we don't get this figured out. And now the chancellor, head person in charge of UNMC, is being looked at to tapped into to become the new president of Nebraska. They're going to combine them. So this is just, I think this is just internal politics at play, and everyone else is catching on because, it's very catchy wording, like, oh my God, Nebraska's about to get kicked out. But I think it's just an internal battle to try to combine these entities so that way they can get back into the AAU.
Do you want to put something up?
Yeah, I'll put something up here.
Go ahead.
On the stage. This is from the Georgia Tech analysis here. So that one's for you, Immaculate Georgia Tech. Cheers.
Nice.
Look who's team 19, guys. When you throw Georgia Tech in, Nebraska. Nebraska's academics stink. Like, let's be honest. Like, not just the research spending. This was based on a 3-year average research spending, which they were last at. But really, whenever you measure them in other academic categories, they're the worst in the Big 12, and that's including Oregon, who's no academic juggernaut either. So when there's pressure on Nebraska, it makes sense because they are the absolute laggard, last place academic school in the conference. You can totally see where it's coming from. Just wanted to show that.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
But as we've talked, I don't think there's ever, not in the last 40 years, we've had a top tier school kicked out of a conference for anything. There's been warnings. I know in the past, Michigan's been warned a few times for stuff, and there's other schools. I don't want to just call them out. They're not the only ones for sure, but where a conference has said, hey, XYZ, you got to get this cleaned up. Ohio State had the thing, in 2003 or 4 with their programs, but certainly it had nothing to do with the university itself. To me, I think this is a crazy rumor started by one particular guy that somehow has started to get legs. I haven't seen one credible person actually put an article out about it. They're all tweets. So, I mean, Big Ten guys,
Mhm.
what do you think?
Well, there's just a thought here. What if they have bad academics so nobody notices how bad the football team is?
Well, that's what stands out to me too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there. Maybe it's a possibility. Maybe it's a theory. But yeah, Nebraska's academics took a hit as soon as, because Immaculate is right. Their medical center and their medical school are both in Omaha. And
Right.
because they're not on the campus at Lincoln, Texas made a big fuss about this and had them 86th out of the AAU.
And they don't have to be located in the same position. They just have to be under the same administration.
Right.
And they're not, which is about to change, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just think that's crazy.
So, you know, the other schools like Indiana, we heard them brought up here a little bit earlier. It's going to take like a 2/3 vote in order to get this to pass if you're really going to kick them out. Now, if you're Indiana, if you're Purdue, Illinois, whomever, do you really want to vote yes for that? Because according to Wild Ute, you're next on the chopping block.
If you're Oregon, do you want to vote for that? If you've got to vote,
like,
you're next.
How are you really going to get 2/3 vote to do that? Like, that's the real logistics of the situation, is that there's a bunch of schools that are not going to want to set that precedent.
If Phil Knight was backing up Nebraska like they back up Oklahoma, they would have never lost their AAU status. Oregon, by all rights, is barely. I don't even know how it's all Nike money.
They're a founder. They're a founder of the AAU. That's
okay, well, that helps then. Because
helps,
everything else, when we did their analysis, was terrible. So it's all brand and Nike money. So I think it's bad precedent. We got a comment here from Ryan Thomas, the great Ryan Thomas that always fact checks for us. Thank you very much, Ryan. $2 super chat that says Temple was booted from the Big East in 2003. That was his note.
Mm-hmm.
So it has happened in the last 30 years. Sorry about that. I didn't know about Temple, but we're not talking Temple. We're talking Indiana, Minnesota, Nebraska. I mean, who knows how high up? Once they start ticking at you and pulling you down, where does it end? That's what I would be worried about. I would never vote to kick anybody out, in my opinion. That's just, you're signing your own death knell if you're not Ohio State or Michigan.
It's a bad precedent for some people to be setting that.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see here. We got Baylor Patrick. Good to have you here, man. He says ESPN loses, and he's a member as well. ESPN loses if they don't lower by renegotiation after FSU, others leave. So that's the domino theory that we've been working off for a while. You lose Florida State, Clemson, and who else knows. But those two schools by themselves, we're estimating easily over 50% of all the money that the ACC would be getting. How is it possible that they would be buoyed up by ESPN, pay them more money, while their two best brands went to a different conference? It's a lot. It makes no sense logically, right?
Where do you think some of the money is that ESPN is going to pay them for in the SEC? Where do you think that's coming from?
I don't know.
From the ACC.
YouTube?
They're shifting money over.
I don't know.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, there's going to be increased funding from having them there. That's part of it. But part of it is by lowering what they're paying the ACC, they have money available to pay the SEC.
No, the SEC part makes sense. The part that isn't is once they leave, why in the world would they want to pay Pitt and everybody else more money?
They need that money
together
to help do what they want to do at the SEC. Like it's almost impossible for them to be able to actually do that.
I don't know. I know this is deep into the numbers type stuff, but I'd be happy to sit down and go through the analysis logically with you, but go from top to bottom. If this happened, what is the best situation that the ACC could come up with in money to stay alive?
Oh my.
Because you'd be talking minuses, you'd have the exit fees, you'd have the increased dues to Florida State in the SEC, the ESPN is playing, but now what is the value of the ACC? That would be a fantastic video, maybe not doable.
I mean, there's a lot of estimates that you'd be making in there because nobody knows for a fact, but like the long math again works for Florida State and Clemson. It'd be good to ESPN to get those brands over to the SEC because like Ryan Thomas just gave us a super chat. Thanks for that one. But he has a theory that would boost the SEC to 9 conference games. And I think that he's nails on that. And that would be good for ESPN and the SEC. And they'd be happy and make more money. But the ACC, they're the ones that are really suffering here. It's not ESPN or the SEC. So like how upon a renegotiation, if FSU and Clemson left, how low does it go when you lose that much value in Florida State and Clemson? Those are your top 2 viewership brands, and it's not even really close. So you're looking at like basically the equivalent of like USC and UCLA leaving the pack. Remember
Right.
how like debilitating that was? It's the same thing. The pack was estimating
Worse.
around $50 million in media rights before they left, before like the pack fell apart.
Right.
So with USC and UCLA in house, and they ended up getting $30 million offer. So they lost 40% of the value. So if the ACC sitting at 30 million and you reduce it by 40%, then you're looking at like 18, 19 million, near 20 million. So yeah, I don't know if your exit fees can bridge that, and at least not for the long term. So you'd be in big trouble. It's not sustainable, guys. It's not.
Ryan, thank you for your super chat. I really, really appreciate it. We know you're a numbers guy. And you can reply. I know you've got other comments that you put in here about Syracuse and Wake Forest and whatnot. We know that they're like SMU's not getting any money for a decade. The real question is, the question that I asked you on the back of a napkin, is that a formula we could build that would actually make a reasonable estimate, and then I say reasonable 50 or 60% accuracy to what the ACC would actually look like to have to survive for the Pitts
That'd
of
be
the
in the eye of
world.
the beholder, though, right? Like that'd be different for Wake Forest versus UNC, and so it'd be like relative to your situation if you're going to.
Yeah, I mean, but if we talk about logically, don't you think at that point UNC is going to want a larger payout?
Yeah,
They'd be the absolute bell cow. So now all of a sudden,
here's the thing: UNC is
like,
not going to accept this. That's why this is crazy.
Right.
UNC and Miami, they're not going to accept this. They're not going to be playing in this pool of like low dollars and everything and that reduces their viewership too and their exposure. Like, why in the world would they do that? That's what makes no sense, guys. No, this isn't going to happen. Like this, the ACC is going to bust apart. That's what's going to happen. And
I feel really bad. We have fans that watch us that are really struggling, like Steve-O, right? Yeah, I can't remember which school, but it's not Clemson. Steve-O, in the comments, remind me of the school you represent. But these fans are hurting. They're really, really hurting in these schools that are on the edge. And then you have schools that are just flat out ignoring the problem, like Pitt. All their social media people, I got in conversation with JJ Kitchen this week, and very cordial and everything, but it's like they can't even think. It's not even. It reminds me of Utah. I know they say it's not the same as Utah, but kind of in the ego trip, it is.
It's worse.
It's really sort of blinders, and so it's consciously they don't want to even have the conversation. That's the part I don't get. Aren't the administrators of these schools really doing a disservice to their board of trustees, to their board of governors, to their presidents, the administrations, if they're not out there actually trying to find out what that number would be for them?
Yeah, go ahead, Immaculate.
Oh, I was just going to say, just to kind of push back a little bit, I do not think the ACC is going away. I don't think it's going to blow up. It's just going to be considerably lower value. But remember this, the AAC has a deal with ESPN.
Right.
So the ACC is not going away. It's just going to be worth less if they have to just backfill with some AAC schools and whatnot. If there's other plans, then that's other plans, and we can get that another day. But there's not enough landing spots for these ACC schools to go to. So worst case scenario is they backfill. Now, what type of value that has, that's an entirely different debate, because you're right. That value is considerably lower, and it even becomes viable to then start debating, do they stay in the A4? Because the other three can vote to remove them. That's what happens with the pack leaving.
Right, that's right.
You don't get a 2 versus 2 vote, which now that doesn't exist anymore. Now, basically, the Big Ten and the SEC could just vote you out. And is the Big 12 going to say no? I mean,
no, of course
maybe
not.
they would if you don't want to see the ACC out, but maybe not, because then now you're getting whatever you want. As you know, the that next tier right underneath, which is still a really good spot. Big 12 is making more money than it ever has before. Keep that in mind. But no, I don't think the ACC is going away. It's going to be less.
Again, Ryan Thomas says that the academic 8. That's what you've been talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Immaculate.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get into that later when things start to happen. But yeah, it's two different paths for them. It's two very different paths.
Okay. Moen, you've been silent. Is there anything else?
I think it's not academic 8. It's a Big East 2.0.
Oh, wow.
It is the
Fair
biggest.
enough. I mean, it is entirely possible.
Let's get to some more comments. I love the pace that we're going at, guys. This is awesome. We're an hour in. If you're new to the channel, 150 people almost watching this live right now. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us all on Twitter. If you're new to the channel, kind of see how we do things. There's a comment I want to get to that came from somebody I really value. That would be Mr. Monkey Says. So this comment it's a question actually, and it goes to where we started when we created the channel and the channels that we started with last summer. We now are moving more global. We're doing more college football national type coverage, but where we're covering you, Monkey, is no, we're probably not going to be breaking down in great detail not real like heavy duty news in recruiting in the Big 12 or team spotlights and stuff like that. That's probably not going to happen unless you wants to take that on as a project. I don't have the bandwidth to be able to do that, but that was never really the intent of the channel. The intent of the channel was for us to represent me originally, then you to represent the Big 12 out in the wider world, right? We are a bastion for the Big 12 or an advocacy. That's why ACC people don't necessarily like what we say, because we're advocating for the Big 12 to eat and to survive. And to do that, it has to pick up some schools from the ACC. So that's where the heart of the show started. And then we started doing more national stuff with Moen and Immaculate and other contributors, Rock and Rant and Sergeant Pickles and Becky. And now we're doing more national stuff, more national shows, but we're going to still have those special episodes. Like this week, our special episode is Doug Rohan and the legal fight that's currently going for Florida State in North Carolina and Florida. It's going to be similar when we get to the House versus NCAA ruling, if that comes this year, stuff like that. So no, I'm not going to make I don't promise much anyway, but I'm not going to commit. We're going to be diving deep into that stuff, Monkey. I know you're watching this recording now and you couldn't get to you while you were still here, but do know that we are still the outpost, not the rebel outpost, that's peek around the corner, but we are another outpost that is representing the Big 12 as much as we can. You want to add anything to that?
I think that it's worth noting that we're still going to be breaking down our picks for the Big 12. We know a lot about Big 12. We're really connected in Big 12 community still, so we'll be talking about Big 12, but this show is largely for college football discussion in general nationwide. So we still love the Big 12, and Mr. Monkey, we love your KU Jayhawks, and we love the Utes, the Cougars, and all the rest of the Big 12, and we will bring them up if that's where the information goes and the discussion goes, the news discussion of the day.
Very good.
If I may add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I saw that and I kind of felt bad when I saw it because Monkey's been hanging around with us for a long while. But I just got to say, I don't really think any of us here specialize in those things that he's talking about.
Right.
We kind of talk about what we're really interested in and what people come here for. And that's kind of gone along the lines of the business of college football, whether it's realignment or the legal stuff. I mean, that's what's happening almost on a daily basis right now. I'm really not looking to get into competition with some of these folks who focus in on recruiting and all the information they know. Like, but what am I going to say about that? So I can only speak for myself in that, but I'd have a real hard time jumping into what he's saying and still doing what I do.
Right. Certainly the Big Ten guys, we wouldn't expect you guys to do those things. We're just specifically talking to that Big 12 audience. And
let's be honest, there's advantages to this too, because we've got 2 Big 12 contributors and 2 Big 10 contributors. So we have our pulse on all the teams in these conferences, essentially. We might not follow them religiously outside of our own specific schools, but we've got our pulse on it. So it gives better insights and discussion across the board.
Very good. I appreciate that. And that's exactly right. Thank you. So Mr. Monkey Says and OPD Don and all those Big 12 people out there, we're here for you. We haven't gone anywhere. Jayhawk fans, you're going to be represented. So we're for
squad.
the Big 12 and the biggest control they can have in the college football world overall. Here's a comment from FCS guy who's been a member for 1 month. Thank you, FCS guy, for being a member for 1 month.
Winner.
Winner, definitely a winner. His comment tonight says big founding members won't be left behind. I think we all agree with that.
They will not be left behind.
No.
There's still going to be a Big Ten conference. Don't worry about that. Football just won't be in it.
Yeah. Let's see here. Sooner Legends podcast. Haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you, Sooner Legends. He's a member, longtime member, actually. Shout out to Bomber and the panel. So that's to you guys. Shout out to you guys. Sooner Legends is awesome. Great to have you back, Sooner. Good to see you. Clint Moses, obviously an Oregon State homer, says, as a fan, I'm hurt. Can we speak on players' agents ruining the game? Running the game, he says.
I think he meant ruining, though.
Did he? Okay, ruining the
Maybe
game and maybe he meant both. The game and getting big percentage of the players' NIL deals. I would just add to that the corruption. I'm going to be doing a special, if not next week, the week after, with Danielle Kelly. She's an NIL expert. She actually has created some NIL deals for players and players and their NIL collectives. And she's going to break this down for us. We've already talked about it, and I think it's going to be a really good show. Anyway, what do you guys think about this?
I think he's talking about the running back situation that happened at Oregon State recently with
Damian Martinez.
Yeah, him leaving, and his agent was making some public comments, especially on Twitter, and it definitely got everyone in that community riled up. So I know a lot of those folks right now are pretty angry, pretty pissed off. They've been angry and pissed off, but now it's hit on a deeper level for them. So I'm feeling it from Clint.
They're not the only fans suffering from NIL theft. In other words, stealing players through NIL collectives. That's happened to every one of our schools, except for Ohio State. I don't think that's happened to
I don't think stealing is the right word.
I do.
I think acquiring is the right word.
No, stealing.
They
I think
acquire people.
corruption.
Besides, that kid, from what I understood, that Oregon State running back might be leaving for Michigan. So,
oh, geez.
You've got to be kidding me.
Blame Michigan for that.
The rich get richer, I tell you. All right, OPD.
They saw what Ohio State did, so you know.
Is Connor Stallion still on staff over there? Did he get back on staff?
Probably.
No, but they've got the old Ohio State running backs coach, and the rumor in the Ohio boards was that that kid was going to Michigan, but we'll see.
OPD Don, right on cue, says, to me, the fascinating school is Virginia, talking about the ACC. Where's their mindset? UNC, ACC, are they humming the Clash song of should I stay or should I go? I just don't know.
Opie, that's such a dang good question. Same thing over here. I was thinking about that today, and I tried to do some digging to get some smoke to see the feel of what folks are saying out in Virginia territory. I'll be really honest though, there's just not that many of them. there's not. Like we're gonna have on who are we having on Tuesday?
It's gonna be Flo. I want to get his Flo from Florida State is going to be here.
So from Miami, right? From Miami.
Sorry, Miami. I apologize.
So we're going to get the Miami pulse and really where the fan base is, and also where like the program is, in addition like for this realignment stuff. But Virginia, there's just not a lot that you can find out there. It's just
and
small.
If you do find them, they have the honorable in front of their names, so they're not going to come on board with us, guys. Sorry.
So
politics.
I've got him on Discord as you are crazy Flo. So I know he's a creator in the Miami universe, and it was actually Rock and Rant that tipped us off to him. So he'll be with us on Tuesday night.
We can look at the Virginia president and what's been said, what has come from him and has been documented in court paperwork now. I think it's pretty safe to say that Virginia has decided to take a leadership position in the ACC and what's going to be left behind. Whether that's a good choice or not, people can debate that. But I think you do not go and do what he's did if you're on the side planning and preparing yourself to sue the ACC. Like, okay, maybe on like a serious degree of like CIA level manipulation and okay, maybe. But when we're just talking about real people here and how far he's gone to bring these lawsuits to scrape around ACC, he basically said it was okay that the ACC didn't get a vote. Like, he is 100% in on this. So I think Virginia is not going anywhere. I think that he has made it very clear where Virginia lies, and it, to me, that adds another little notch in the belt of them trying to go this academic direction, because Virginia basically is a public school that thinks it's an elite private university. They act that way, they treat that way, they do their admissions that way. You look, their power in politics is the same as a lot of those. So point being is, I don't think they're going anywhere. I think that they have laid their anchor and they're saying, follow us, we'll do this.
Anything else? All right, let me set the record straight. This is the flow. I've put his Twitter profile in there. Go and look at it. Right now, his Twitter name is Miami Flow. Miami Flow 305 is his @ handle, and he's a creator in the Miami world. So if you know any of the Miami fan base, contributors or creators, he's one of them. Been doing it for a long time.
He's one of the bigger ones, yeah.
He is. He's been on radio and TV, not TV, but radio, and then shows on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that answers the question for both Terry and Terry. You probably know who he is, I'm sure. Tony Lawson says Mel's Diner Flow.
Kiss my grits, Tony.
Kiss my grits. Okay. Let's get to this one. Replica says agents replace parents and relatives in terms of negotiation, but the game is still the game. Granny always said there was nothing new under the sun.
Instead of bagmen, it's now agents. Yeah.
The days of bagmen are over.
Oh yeah, those guys are sitting in some smoky room with a cigar saying, I remember when that was me running all of this, and now they're doing nothing.
I kind of miss the bagmen, like the clandestine stuff the bagmen used to do in the SEC. I mean, that was some crazy stuff back in the day.
Nobody did it better than SMU.
Yeah, those guys wouldn't be.
Tennessee was pretty good at it.
Those guys would not be on Twitter X telling us what they're doing, though, if they're doing it. So I kind of appreciate the agents in that regard, even if they say dumb things and put their feet in their mouth.
Yeah.
I just think there should be performance incentives. It shouldn't be lump sums. If they stick around for X number of months, they get this money. If they stick around for the X number of months, they get this money. So the total value could be many, many millions, but they get it in pieces. They don't just write a college kid who's 18 or 19 years old a check for $2 million and then says, we hope you stick around. I mean, that's where it started. That's where this NIL, it just became pay for a player. But now we have unlimited transfers. So they should have like really tight contracts with these guys, in my opinion.
It's fascinating you brought that up. I agree. And like, think about it this way, like the NFL contract structure, there's guaranteed contracts and there's performance-based contracts.
Right.
Once this thing moves to an employee status, you better believe the schools are going to push performance-based contracts on these players. Like, they're not going to be guaranteed contracts. So every touchdown you throw, maybe that's $2,000 or something, right? We're going that way for sure, because that's advantageous for the school. And so I think that will happen, but it's not going to happen until they're actually full employees of the university or the conference.
All right. Anything else for that comment? Thank you very much, Replica. Good to see you. Let's see here. Let me make sure I get this right. K Hilani L. Thank you very much for being here, L. We appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and become a member. Consider. We'd love to have you stick around, be for later shows. Turn on those notifications. Kahilani L says, if UVA and Virginia Tech are opposite in sports, then why does Virginia Tech have 0 in national championships in team sports and UVA has more than 30? Ute. Some
Virginia battle going on right there for VT and UVA and everything. And you know what? This is a fascinating case study too on who provides more value in like the realignment game here. So does Virginia Tech provide more value? And it might be in the eye of the beholder. to the SEC, Virginia provides more value. I think the Virginia Tech, the Big 12, Virginia Tech probably provides more value than Virginia. It's quite fascinating, despite the lopsided national championships as you see here.
Now you also have to ask what sports is that in. I mean, that
All
sounds
sports,
like
probably.
that sounds like a great athletic department across the board, no doubt. And I would expect Virginia in the ACC that comes to be to continue to be a leader in that regard. But that's not what's pushing the big money.
Right.
And in the big money, that's football. And even though Virginia Tech has fallen off, their stands are still full. Their crowds are still wild. Their donors are still donating. Their boosters are still boosting. Their NIL is still rolling. Virginia's is not, and they don't get people there even when they have good games. So, it's not against UVA. UVA is an amazing institution.
Virginia, UVA reminds me of Arizona State. They're an analog.
Virginia reminds me of a mix of Cal and Stanford.
Oh, that's even worse.
I'm sure you got your reasons for that, but Virginia and Arizona State are very much opposite in a lot of things. But
their fans are all ambivalent to all their big sports. They won a national championship in basketball, and it was like, yay, for 5 minutes. And then
yeah. But Arizona State, if Dillingham gets the football going, they'll be there. It's just people here in the Valley have a lot of options of stuff to do. And so, yes, they are a bit bandwagony. But when that football team gets going, they will be there in force. Whereas Virginia, I think they could be in the running and probably still not have a great crowd. It's just they just don't care as much about that sport in particular.
Anybody else want to comment on this one before we let Commissioner Immaculate leave us?
Well, yes, I do. UVA is old money. That is old Plymouth Rock money.
Okay.
That is,
Mm-hmm.
Arizona State on the other hand is new money. That's where the kids go to party.
Moan, who would you like in Virginia too, nationwide?
Princeton, Harvard, Yale, William and Mary, Johns Hopkins. They're old money. I mean, they were founded by Thomas Jefferson.
Right.
I mean, the third president of the third president of the United States. How old they are. So they're old.
Their fan base is just not energized at all.
And they've done good.
And what are you paying for? That at the end of the day, what does a Fox pay for? A very old granddaddy school that has fans that would rather be out, curing cancer, or a school that maybe has a chip on their shoulder, but their fan base is absolutely rabid and will eat up all of your football and basketball product you put on television.
Well, everybody needs lawyers and politicians in their pockets.
Okay. All right.
And UVA provides those.
All right, let's get to some super chats here. First of all, we got one from FCS guy who we just recognized a bit ago. He's given us a super chat for $1.99. Wild Ute, big not dropping Minnesota for UAU. Laughable. So there you go.
No, they would not drop for the UVU.
Okay.
I wouldn't agree with that statement. But Minnesota might be at risk of getting left behind in the super conference, like I said before. So that's different than the University of Utah replacing Minnesota in the Big Ten. That's two different things.
Here's another one. $10 super chat from Pat Crow, all the way from Arizona. Pat Crow, really? Virginia Tech football ratings are much better. The SEC doesn't play sports, and like 20 of those UVA North University
It's true.
National champion. Okay.
Yeah. ACC supports more sports than any other conference. So
just like the Pac-12 did.
I think they were close, but the ACC, I don't know what all they are. It was one of the things that they always touted is that we support more sports than any other conference. So
ACC supports them, and the Pac-12 claims them.
Yeah.
Conference of Champions.
That's right.
It's now dead. It's just be careful what you wish for, I swear. Thank you very much for the super chat, Pat.
Yep. Before you take it off the screen, let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
Let's talk some Georgia Tech for a second. Right. Everybody take a drink. Say Georgia Tech.
Get warmed up. Got to get warmed up.
Did everybody see what I just saw? I said Georgia Tech. Ute and Moen both look left. I said
Yep.
Georgia Tech. Immaculate went right. What's funny? Sorry, the other way. Went my right, and the reverse. You guys went to my left. What's funny about that is you're on those same sides of the screen. So if I put Moen where Immaculate is, and I say Georgia Tech next time, is Moen gonna do the opposite? That was really interesting. I don't know if
Bomber, I
anybody
think that
else
you
caught
need to
that.
start taking a sip too of water or something else. You're watching
Okay.
too much and
He's
drinking
noticing
too little over there.
everything.
I
He is
love
very,
this. This is great.
very
It's like a
observative.
social studies experiment.
There we go.
All right,
There
let's
we
move
go.
right on.
Let 'em
Pat
cook.
Crow, thank you very much for the super chat.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you,
Really,
brother.
really appreciate it. Let's see here. Jamie Thornton again. And I will make all four of you a bet right now. To Bomber, Immaculate, Wild Ute, and Moan. Okay, now it's on tape. Now we can call this back. Virginia will not end up in the SEC. I can speak for the Big Ten, but I can't speak for the Big Ten, but the SEC, it's not happening. I would add, Jamie, you're not going to bet me because I don't think they're going to end up in the SEC
I'm not
either.
taking that bet.
Does anybody want to disagree with Jamie?
Greg.
Give me
I
odds.
disagree with Jamie.
Do you? Where do you think UVA
okay.
ends up?
I think they end up in the SEC.
That's crazy talk, I think.
Is it crazy talk?
The
Greg
SEC doesn't need schools.
Greg said Virginia too. So I mean,
So
I don't
I think so. Jamie, here's the thinking. Okay, I don't think they come in at 100%. I think they're going to come at a severe discount.
There we go.
And I do. So I think that they're going to come in with UNC, and I think that's advantageous for the SEC to get into new territory. And what UVA does for the SEC, it gets them in near Washington D.C., a new market. They don't have that right now. The Big Ten does have that in Maryland. So it's already redundant territory for the Big Ten. For the SEC, it's a new territory. So I think that rather than the Wolfpack backpack, it's going to be the Cavalier backpack coming along in the SEC. I always thought that from day one. I think UNC is 100% distribution of the SEC, and UVA is a 50% distribution for a very long time.
I will make a bet here. Wild Ute cannot rhyme Cavalier with anything similar to Wolfpack backpack.
How about you down there, Immaculate? You're saying you don't take the bet, but
what are we betting, Jamie? What are we betting here? We need to ask that too. Okay, was this just a friendly bet? Are we throwing something down here on the Cavs?
I don't know. If Virginia was moving, I don't see their president acting so thoroughly in the opposite direction, making it harder for his school to actually do that. I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong. Maybe it's a ploy. It's part of it. Maybe it's controlling it from the top so that way they can get. I don't know. But to me right now, he seems pretty adamant on stating that they're not going anywhere. And from what some have said, the SEC deal actually does not allow for those type of half payments and whatnot. So that might be a problem. I'm not saying this because I don't know for sure. I'm sure Jamie might know a little bit more about that or some others. But supposedly the SEC deal completely disallows for that to be possible. Don't know why, but that's what some say.
Okay. Moen, you have your hand up. Did you want to say something?
I want to put forward Cavalier souvenir.
Oh my God.
Carolina, you're getting the Cavalier souvenir.
All right, Sergeant Pickles,
there
go to
you
work.
Go. You heard it here.
We came, we conquered, we have a Cavalier.
Cavalier souvenir.
Sergeant Pickles, get to work with your AI tool. Build us a Cavalier souvenir.
We need a Ram, a really strong UNC Ram, and a Cavalier.
Carrie Cole, go Knowles. Thank you for being here, Carrie. Appreciate it. Member for 2 months. You've been fantastic in the Mafia family. Really
Carrie's
appreciate
all
it.
over the place.
Miami president is pushing to stay in the ACC. He loves the ACC. So
I think that you're going to hear a different narrative actually on Tuesday on the Big 12 Mafia show from our guest that seems to be fairly connected. So we'll see what he says about that. But I think they might be playing a different type of game than FSU with the same objective.
Just catch us Tuesday night at 8 Eastern, Carrie. You normally do anyway, but that's a reminder. We'll have Flo on. We'll go through that with him. Yep. All right, now we're just going bang to bang to bang with Super Chats, so let's get through these. Pat Crow follows up with another $5 Super Chat. Says, no one watches UVA or Maryland football. Virginia Tech has outstanding ratings in the D.C. market. So does Virginia Tech carry that region in their TV? Do you know, you?
I know their ratings well, and UVA's ratings well in football. And the truth is, they're both really low.
Okay.
Virginia Tech's ratings are surprisingly, shockingly low because they get stuck on the ACC network so
Like
much.
the DMA doesn't capture
Well,
DC.
Well, I mean, like you're looking at overall ratings and stuff, like across the
Oh,
board. You're not
okay.
just looking at like your DMA's your market size,
Right.
but like we're talking about overall nationwide ratings. And Virginia Tech and UVA have been stuck on ACC network, which isn't Nielsen rated, so they both get really low ratings across the board. UVA is shockingly low, like the worst, one of the worst. But Virginia Tech's isn't good either. It's like below average for the ACC, so it's really dropped the last 3 or 4 years too. For Virginia Tech. It was pretty good about 10 years ago, and then it seems like it's kind of declined off based
Since
on them
Beamer
not being quite as good.
Yeah, since Beamer retired, right?
Probably, yeah. It's probably a strong correlation with that.
Pure prediction on that real quick. If they're in the SEC, though, I don't think they're getting bad ratings. They are going to become the SEC team. Whatever one of them. Like, that goes for both. Whatever one of them gets in, they are the Virginia team. They're in that location. But also what we know right now is that Virginia Tech still has good, solid support. As people come to the games, it's fun atmosphere, donors, supporters, all those things that make it so, you got to turn around the program, but everything is there to be successful, whereas Virginia just does not have the support.
They don't. You're right on, Macula. It's like the Miami conundrum. Like Miami's ratings aren't that great either. Like how can Miami, Florida not have great ratings? Like with those, like with that brand and stuff. Yeah. So part of the problem here is like what kind of like true, if they were in the SEC, what kind of ratings could they drive? Like a Miami or a Virginia Tech? A lot better than a Virginia.
A lot better.
I would, yeah.
And Virginia Tech's, when you look at how low they are right now, and you've pointed them out, you've shown it. I mean, those are stats. But I think that that's placement. That's who you've gone up, who they had to compete against, like on the other channels at the time. It's just, one of those things that's just the circumstances is circumstantial. But you put them in the SEC, I think you'd be surprised at how much of a jump they'd have. Especially depends.
I think they perform well in the Big 12 too. I think the Big 12.
Yeah. I think they get a jump there as well. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Opie D-Don drops a bomb. $25 super chat. Thank you so much. Hit it, Moen.
Tell them to bring me my money.
Oh, geez.
That's a good one.
Wow.
Dang.
That's new.
Wow.
That's a good one. Cheers to Moen and his new soundboard. That was fantastic. $25 says, doesn't The Godfather have a Virginia money perch? He does, yes. Maybe it's not near, but it's just a deer of the Cavalier.
The deer of the Cavalier.
Okay.
Cavalier souvenir.
Cavalier.
Do you know, Moen? Yeah, I don't know if Greg's ever mentioned before if he's got a Cavalier money perch. I mean, I know he's got connections though, so I wouldn't be surprised.
If you've got a money perch in Virginia, you got connections.
Is it much of a money perch at Virginia though?
Yeah.
I mean,
but they got a lot of money out there.
Yeah,
they do. But are they actually? I mean, these are people who use the money to support.
Right. We're talking about the boosters,
and that gives you influence, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if they do, it's probably not. It's probably more like over lacrosse or something.
Opie, thank you for the super chat.
Soccer.
Yeah, brother, it was
Much
fantastic. Much appreciated.
Here's another one from Kerry Go Knowles, $10, who happens to also be a member. Says, hey guys, I'm still for FSU to the Big 10 and Miami to the Big 12. If that was to happen, Kerry, me and you would be very, very happy.
Over the moon.
Oh my gosh.
Very, very happy. So all we can do is hope and pray, right?
I don't know how happy Miami fans would be about that. FSU fans would be happy. Big 10 fans would be happy. Big 12 fans would be over the moon. But Miami fans, we'd have to persuade them, you could say, to want to come over.
Yeah. Miami fans might say,
hey, what happened?
Yeah. I think that's what's going to be going on at Pittsburgh, frankly. But
I'll drink
all
to
right.
that.
Let's get to another one here. Georgia Tech before this comment from Ryan Thomas. ESPN will move ACC schools that are Big 12 equivalent brands to the Big 12 and dump the bottom third. If we go with Immaculate's idea, this could happen, and then the rump ACC would then renegotiate for a different dollar amount with ESPN. Is that kind of where the line of logic goes, guys?
My thought would be you'll first get your first movements to the big into the SEC. That's going to cause things to happen. Then after those things happen, which we're talking renegotiations or the whole shebang there, that's when I think you would then have some schools saying, okay, this is not a good deal. We're going to go to the Big 12. That's when I think that happens. I don't think it's the same time as the Big 10 and SEC. I think it's after that at some point in time. Probably not too far after it. It's not going to take them very long to realize, oh shit. But it's not going to be instantaneous.
Can I ask you a really quick question? This just occurred to me, and I don't know why I didn't think about it months ago, especially last month when the college football playoff negotiations were happening in February. Sorry, I'm a month off. Mm-hmm. We used to point to that 2026 renegotiation date for the CFP. Mm-hmm. Now that date has largely been neutered, hasn't it? Because the contract was redone?
Nope.
Why is 2026 still a big date?
Because they have not yet figured out. They've figured out basically ownership rights, right? Like your voting and your payout. Right. But they have not yet built the thing. They don't know if it's going to be just kind of open or if you're going to have AQ. They have not figured that out. And there's talk of them meeting here soon again. But they need to know who's going to be where, what conferences are going to have how are we going to build this thing? Do we need to do AQs? Is it just, are we going to allow this thing to roll? So to me, it is still a date that they still have to get things figured out by. And don't forget, on top of that, you have House versus NCAA coming January 2025. So it's not just the 2026, but we're still in that time frame where things are still moving quickly. And the timeline's not expanding, it's getting shorter. And as that continues to contract, the pressure is going to build, and you're going to see things happening sooner. And when things get forced, they tend to happen a little bit sloppier.
Okay, that answers the question. Thank you very much, Immaculate. Appreciate that. We have another super chat from Tony Lawson for $5. Thank you, Tony. He says the city of Miami will be attractive to the Big Ten and their media partners. I'm still on the FSU and Clemson bandwagon. Bucky Badger has no pants.
Does Bucky Badger have no pants?
Is Ryan
he
here?
He doesn't wear pants.
I haven't seen Ryan. I haven't seen Ryan. Okay.
I don't know if Goldie Gopher does either, but it's pretty real.
I mean, the Buckeye nut has pants, right? What?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bucky Badger does not have pants. He just has a sweater. Oh, you're right. Goldie Gopher does have pants. But they're all animals anyway, guys. So I don't think indecent exposure is going to come up in court. But
good point.
This seems so stupid. You think about it. It's dumb. All right. Thank you, Tony.
Let's get his question too. He's got actually a comment there.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I thought we were talking about that. Go ahead.
The city of Miami will be attractive to the Big Ten and the media partners. I am still on the FSU and Clemson bandwagon. And tough, Tony, you are not alone with that assessment right there.
I couldn't disagree more. It's free real estate, guys.
I couldn't disagree more. I think that if Clemson doesn't go to the Big Ten, they don't go to the SEC. So Big Ten's it's their life after, and they're in the Big 12. So
Clemson?
Yeah, I don't think they go to the SEC. I think it's
really?
Big Ten or bust. Oh, I've said that.
Why wouldn't Clemson go to the SEC? I'm curious.
Because they already have the market with South Carolina.
Oh, yeah,
they don't need it. Carolina's not big enough to support two. There's just not the population center. They can do that in Florida. They can do that in Texas. Multiple teams. South Carolina? Why spend the money? I still think that the SEC almost doesn't want to expand at all. That's my opinion. I don't think they barely. The only reason they would move would be defensively, in my opinion. But I don't know anything.
I like Clemson going to the Big Ten, guys. I like Clemson in the Big Ten.
They could go to the Big Ten. That's possible.
At a half share.
It's them or nothing, though, I think. OPD on another $2. super chat says, okay, got any Monopoly Go tips for at Mary and Mocha? You guys know what that means?
No.
I don't know what Monopoly Go is, but I can tell you on Monopoly, you control the corners, you control the world. That's what you do.
Control the
The
corners.
oranges and the reds are usually the best properties to have in the game.
Greens. You got to have greens.
No, the oranges and the reds get landed on more often than anything else. So
I love the greens. They're my favorite.
that's the more you know.
The more you know.
Thank you, Opie.
Thank you, Opie. Right?
Got him.
What are you doing? Dropping that? That's
Well, that was the more you know. It was a
More
tip
you
about
know.
Monopoly.
How
More
long
you
have you
know.
been saving that for?
Control
That is
the
a
orange and the
trip.
red. Control the corners.
you gotta understand when you're old. That really meant. Owen, that's not nice.
You just took him back like in a moment. Bam.
I did. I was transported back. To the
Flashback.
He
Cosby
remembers
Show.
watching the Golden Girls and Empty
Cheers.
Nest on there. And,
Cheers.
The little
cheers.
star that comes flying across.
The rainbow. You gotta have the rainbow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, immaculate. Or Moen, you just made everybody's day watching me laugh.
Mary and Mocha's.
All
James'
right.
wife.
All right. Let's get to some more comments. We are cruising through this. I can't believe how fast this show's gone tonight. All right. Another comment from Replica says Nebraska rumors sounds like a convenient excuse to cover their desire to leave the Big Ten. They could be eyeing the SEC. So
Bye.
Go. See ya. See ya.
Go
Go.
on.
don't let the door hit you on the way out.
No problem.
You guys would want Nebraska out of conference?
No, but at the same time, if they want to go, we're not going to be
They
like,
want to go,
"Please
yeah.
don't go."
Please
Like,
don't
we're not
go.
singing
You
that
brought
song.
so
Nobody's
much.
begging Nebraska to stick around.
And Nebraska
Basically
doesn't
where
want to
that
go.
goes.
They don't want any of that.
That's a fantastic comment. Thank you, Replica. Here's one from Daniel Gygax. You don't need a medical school to be AAU. See UC Berkeley and Santa Barbara.
No, but
He's right.
that was specifically what was stated as to why they were removed from the AAU. Like it's not like a full on requisite, but when they say this isn't part of your main campus and this would be a big part of your value for the AAU and it's not under your purview, so we don't see any reason to have a relationship with you because of this. It's pretty obvious what you need to do to get back in. And the fact that it's taken this long just goes to show how much division there is within the whole University of Nebraska system.
All right. Moving right along. Illini Ted says if the ACC is willing to accept this trade type proposal, they might as well just disband because the teams that have options will all bring up lawsuits immediately. That's what Moen's been saying from the beginning of time. Anybody else want to comment on that?
Yeah, it won't just be a deal for Florida State and Clemson. It'll be like a grace period type of deal. Like you have this long to take this deal and make your decision soon. So I think that they would have more lawsuits on them if they tried to make it only for Florida State and Clemson. That would probably get you in a lot of hot water.
Is there a chance that once those two schools leave? Well, no, we already know the answer because Oklahoma and Texas and UCLA and USC, those conferences freaked out, but they couldn't stop them. There's nothing they could do. So yeah, that's a big deal. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate the comment. It's really, really good. Let's see here. John Dry has been watching our show for a little while. Appreciate it, John. The Big has the weakest 8 to 10 schools. The SEC has Vandy, and the Big 12 will have ASU.
CU.
The SEC has Florida. Sorry. The SEC doesn't have like just all across the board power programs. Many of them are not as good as SEC folks like to claim.
That is really good.
So,
Anybody else want to comment on that? That was a good one, John. Well done.
also, don't be surprised if in like 2 years ASU is actually at the top of the Big 12. We'll see.
Let's see. All right. I lost my place because I was laughing at that. Was a good one. Steve O, High Florida says, not a secret. ACC ESPN had a huge hand in blowing up the Big East football.
Mm-hmm.
They shunned West Virginia and Cincinnati and he knows this intimately because he's a Cincinnati alum. Cincinnati and took Boston College and Syracuse for some crazy reason. Later shunned UCF. ACC deserves everything that is about to transpire. He might want them to die more than Ute and I do. What do you guys think?
That's
I
some
think
pure
that's
old
complete
fashioned hate.
Schadenfreudigan.
That's a pure old fashioned hate.
Schadenfreudigan right there. So hey, yeah, we want to see the ACC fall apart. Sorry, ACC fans. Your death will be our life.
Yeah, well, it is kind of like that.
Well, you know what Joe Namath thinks.
I couldn't care less about the team struggling.
Struggle. You know, he was half sauced when he said that, right? He could.
He was half sauced. He was whole sauce, brother.
Crazy. DP, valued member for a while, says Clemson and Georgia has been as successful as the entire Big Ten in the CFP era. What do you want to say to that, Moen?
Well, he's probably right.
And yet Clemson is the one that needs a home.
Yeah, and we still make more money than you. How is that, how's that working out for you? We're not trying to get out of our conference.
Oh,
Sure. I mean,
mic drop.
Like you would be dying to get into the Big Ten right now.
Oh, brother. Okay. Shots
So
fired.
Clemson has 2 national championships, in the CFP era, and what?
Right.
Big Ten
Ohio
has 2.
State has
Ohio
one,
State
and Michigan has one.
Right.
So
Michigan's
Clemson
is
has
contested.
tied.
what Clemson had is a coach that was loyal. Congratulations on that.
And also with some of the best recruiting classes over a 4-year period that you've ever seen in college football history.
Because of the coach and his people who were loyal to him for quite a while until they started to not be.
And now we're
You guys are going to be conference mates soon, so you need to get along here. Clemson and the Big Ten.
all right.
We don't need to get along to be conference mates.
This is a quick hint for everybody. Anytime you use my name in a comment, you have a very high likelihood that I'll pull it, whether you remember or not. Just a tip. Jamie
Unless
knows
Rock
this.
and Rant's monitoring that.
Yeah, unless
so
Rock
Bomber,
and
sorry.
Rant comes in and shuts it down. Jamie Thornton says, and Bomber, thank you. The SEC will expand to 9 games with expansion. So that's 9 games ESPN has for advertising revenue with Florida State versus losing them to Fox and getting nothing. Yeah, I mean, it's true, but Florida State does not want to be in the SEC. I don't think so. They don't want ESPN as the partner, I don't think. I could be wrong.
There's probably still a lot of boosters and folks that maybe are starting to kind of get past the whole CFP thing and think, oh, maybe we would want to play closer to home. But I think it's pretty clear the administration of that school wants the Big Ten. And so they have to realize that they have a ticking timer here, that people are going to start to get over the CFP. They need to push soon, push quick while there's still a lot of hate and anger. So that way the big money guys will support them if they make the Big Ten move.
Anybody else? Okay. Sergeant Pickles says ACC presidents love what their conference is, not what it will become.
Pickles, we know this well, but so did the pack. We love the conference, but then we don't love what it became of it. So the ACC is in the same boat. There is some hubris in play. Let's be honest about that. And here's the fact of the matter. Like, you turn the Big 12 now, but unfortunately, there's just this negative view of the Big 12 that it's not even at the same quality as the ACC still, despite the media payout, which is ridiculous. And that's going to get smashed up and everything when the ACC falls apart, but that still exists. And that's why the pushback from Pitt fans and other fans too in the ACC about jumping over to the Big 12. So got to change that.
Anybody else?
I mean, you guys, especially while you're talking about, the situation and the comparison. I mean, I was just told recently that comparing the Pac and the ACC is idiocy, which I don't agree with, but I think it's very much worthy of comparison and kind of getting the perspective of someone who went through the whole Pac situation. I think that's about as relevant as it gets as to what some of the folks in the ACC may be facing here in the future.
Very good. I love it. Ryan Thomas, another super chat. Boy, Ryan, thank you so much for being here tonight. Everybody with the super chats, they have been fantastic. Mm-hmm. We got one of the best cultures out there. And we really, really appreciate it. Don't want anybody leaving here. We've been at 150 people watching for the last hour or so, and I really appreciate it. Another super chat from Ryan saying for $2 saying FSU and ESPN are like Taylor Swift and an ex-boyfriend. I would not want to be Taylor Swift's ex-boyfriend. You have about 8 songs written about you, and that would not be a good idea. How many? Let's see. She's got like 12 albums. About 6 of them, and I'm teasing because my daughters have been to like 4 or 5 Taylor Swift concerts. Every ex-boyfriend she's written an album about. So I would not. When Kelsey gets dropped, there's going to be a whole album that's going to be. What's his number? What's Travis Kelsey's number?
He's 88.
87.
87. Sorry,
87. Her next, once they break up, her next, I'm predicting now to the world, her next album will be called 87. Just saying.
So who's FSU and who is ESPN here? So we talking like Taylor Swift is FSU?
Yeah.
And so ESPN. I knew you were in trouble when you walked in.
I got to be honest.
Is that basically saying that ESPN would take FSU still? Like, because it's trouble, but still it's worth it?
I've never listened to a Taylor Swift song, guys.
What is wrong with you? Taylor Swift rocks.
Well, because I lived in the 90s when music was good. And I'm not
90s? 80s.
Yeah.
80s had the best music.
90s.
All right. Thank you very much, Ryan, for the super chat. Go ahead, Immaculate.
I think Ryan's latest comment answers it best. And if you see it there at the bottom, that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
Never, ever are getting back together. I'm telling you, a whole album. 87.
Ryan nailed it.
I am predicting it now. Her next album will be called 87 if they break up between now and
He asked the question and he gave the answer. I mean, that's it.
Thank you, Ryan.
It's a wrap.
Appreciate that a lot.
Amazing.
All right, let's see. We got a few more questions here as we start to wrap up. This is sort of a last question call. If you want your comment to be read, guaranteed it'll be super chat required. Otherwise, we'll just try to cruise through a couple more, and then we'll be kicking everybody to the after show on Discord. I will put that. In fact, let me do that link right now. I didn't hear back from a Rock and Rant. If he's still watching, Rock and Rant, will you post the link to the Discord? I want to make sure I have the latest one. Or Moen, if you have it. I know I've copied one in a couple times. Post that link. Please go to that Discord. There's an after show. Moen has said he would be there for a little while. Just sign into the Discord. Once you are a member, you will go in and you can just join the voice channel. It's right down below on the menu on the left-hand side. It'll be, I don't care. What channel do you want to be in, Moen? The Clink or College Football Mafia voice?
Just put us in College Football Mafia voice.
College Football Mafia voice. There we go. In fact, you know what? I can get the link to that. Let me do that.
Yeah, it's bit.ly/CFB Mafia.
Yeah. I'll get one that goes directly to the channel and see if that helps people. All right, and after Moen, either one of these will get you. This one I'm putting in here actually is a link to the channel itself, but everybody's invited. Come in and join the party. It's 24/7, 365, all football all the time at the College Football Mafia Network. Okay, we got another super chat here. Came in at the end. Thank you very much. Young Seminole. I love that name. That's
Young Seminole.
That's a cool name. $5 says FSU rapper did a diss track to the CFP, so similar to the Taylor Swift thing. That is funny.
You got to send the song's name.
I was going to say, can you send us the YouTube link to that Young Seminole? Post it in the comment section. I'd love to go watch it. I love Taylor Swift. She's awesome. Let's see here. Let's get it. Take it for the super chat, Young Seminole. I want to make sure you know. We appreciate it.
That was legitness. Yeah, it was. Huh?
That was legitness. Me versus Echo Chamber. Laura, us ACC folks are fans of the team, not the conference. That's an SEC thing. Not that Big 12 folks have tried to adopt the conference pride thing. I think that's true. The Big 12 that's one of the initiatives by Brett Yormark. Bring everybody together and propagate the name. That's true. What do you guys think about that comment?
I think I think that this person is correct. I think that the ACC, like, hey, we love our teams. At the end of the day, we just want what's best for our individual teams and whatever conference they're in, right? We just want to see them succeed athletically and stuff. The teams are who we care about and not the conference. Conference can change tomorrow. We're still going to love the teams. So I agree with that. Although the Pac-12 fell apart, it sucks and stuff. I still love Utah football just as much today as I did last year. I'm going to love in the Big 12, just like in the Pac-12. ACC folks that get left behind per se, they're still going to love their schools. The sun will come up tomorrow when that happens.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I will say this. I always root for Big Ten teams unless it's Michigan. Fuck Michigan. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
I just remembered an idea that we've talked about in the past. I posted it in the council on Discord, Moen. I know this is something that would be really cool. People would recognize it. If we could have a countdown, I think would be really cool for the end of the show. Is that, I know we talked about that before. Is that possible?
We can do it. We'd have to do it as a video overlay, but we can do it.
Okay.
It can be done. It can be done.
No, that's
we have.
all right.
We have the tools.
Have the technology.
Fade us out there.
Okay. It's
the
cool.
1 minute
Think about it.
warning,
No, it's like a 10-minute final questions, 5-minute, something like that, so people understand. Kind of set expectations. All right. Let's see. Ryan Thomas never ever getting back together. Laura Weiss says tweets from ACC fans remind me of Pac fans last year. That is 100% true, Laura. Replica says Pitt fans put more effort into being keyboard warriors than going to football games. That is a mic drop, if you've ever. Steve-O High Florida says, sorry boys, music was best in the 70s. I would say 70s, 80s as one thing, because disco started and led right into Depeche Mode, which led right into Poison. Those 2 decades are, in my opinion, are the best.
Steve might be right. Although I love my 90s stuff, but Steve might be right about that.
The 70s were good. If you actually lived through the 70s, you might be able to comment on that. That would be.
I mean, I was technically alive in the 70s.
I know, I'm teasing. Philport 76 says the Pac presidents loved the conference until they didn't. Ute?
True that. Yeah, they did.
It was a
Utah
switch.
loved the Pac.
Flip that switch is what happened.
But it was done, and once he did it, he's been 100% Big 12. So
that's right.
That's the difference that Pitt is not understanding when we engage in these conversations about what is their next step, and they say we're not Utah, and they are exactly Utah.
Yeah, but you couldn't explain it to a Utah fan.
No, I couldn't. Ute was the only Utah fan on all of Twitter that I could get to even engage in a conversation.
Yeah, but you was really not wanting to go to the Big 12.
No, I'm not saying he was.
Right, I'm just saying, like, Utah fans in general, including Weather, were just, until the day came when they kind of realized it. There was little to no support for it. And so I think it's a very apt comparison to make. Not that Utah fans and Pitt fans are the same, just that one little aspect of
exactly right. Yep, you got it. Tony Lawson, Clemson never beat Minnesota. You guys stink. Don't hit that to me. I don't stink. I didn't say anything. I wasn't talking crap about Clemson, Minnesota.
Tough Tony's going after Clemson now?
A little
Come
bit.
on.
We've got some Clemson fans in chat that are starting to show up, so I think it was just
and we recognize those Clemson fans. We want you guys to be here. Tell us why we're wrong. Get into the conversation. Florida State, it took a while to get them going. You guys should be doing the same thing. Get proactive. Get on social media. It really helps. Young Seminole, another one, says no Noel fan is ever over the CFP thing. Who said that?
Fair enough. I was saying that they might eventually slowly start to get over, and he's just like, nope.
If that happened to BYU again, which has happened 3 or 4 times, you don't get over those things.
That's fair. I'm not in those shoes, so I'm definitely not going to refute that.
Ryan Thomas, another $2 super chat, says Utah fans on Twitter hate me for realignment. What do you think about that, Ute?
I think that, Ryan, you're a BYU fan, and that's the reason that Utah fans.
You're saying that kind of was working against him a little bit.
Damn.
No,
that's working against you a little bit here. I think. Hey, Ryan, you know this Ute fan loves you, man. So there you go. You got one.
I think. Let's see here. Let's see. Another one from Steve High Florida says, I like the 80s and 90s music also. By the way, be honest, ain't one of you that wouldn't trade places with Travis at this moment. Who is Travis?
Travis Kelce. You're absolutely right. I would trade.
I didn't say I wouldn't trade places. Yeah, I would take it easy.
Then I'd trade myself to Cincinnati.
I'm just saying I prepare myself for an album.
I'm just kind of
fine.
curious though.
After me.
What did Steve think about Travis's celebration moment when he was up on stage at the University of Cincinnati and got his diploma? I mean, that was interesting, right? We'll see what he has to say about that. I don't know if you guys saw what happened, but Kelsey I think he just chugged a beer right up on stage when he got his.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he got he finally got his degree and he got it from University of Cincinnati.
Right, that's where
he was right up in the middle of the stage in the middle of everyone and just broke it out and chugged it down.
One last comment here, and then I'm going to bring on Rock and Rant for just a minute. Rock and Rant, if you're there, I'm going to let you come on and plug the Discord. So get your script up, get ready. You're going to be on. Jamie Thornton says, I've already told you why you guys are wrong on Clemson. Want to make a bet on that one bomber in Wild Ute. Clemson, 1 hour, 15-minute drive from Athens, Georgia, and a rowdy fan base with SEC connections. So
I agree with you, Jamie. I agree.
I'd say, Jamie, we've already got one bet here for UVA. Then let's just keep it at one for now.
I think the market overlap matters less, and the more is Clemson's backing, support, their stadium, the on TV, and also, which you've talked about, after the CFP agreement, all of a sudden Clemson gets in on the lawsuit. Their valuation boost after the CFP meeting is significant. So that's another reason why you'd add them, because that is going to bring that CFP power to whatever conference takes them.
All right, we've reached that time. Rock and Rant, you want to come on screen and let's talk Discord for just a minute, if you're there.
You might be on mute, there. Rock and Rant.
You're on mute if you're talking.
You got him back.
He's on his phone. Well, when you go off mute, you can talk about it. We'll take a couple more questions and then get out of here. So let's see here. Joey Z says, Matt Taylor, too scrawny and young, curvaceous Cougars the way to go. All right. Normally,
I'm a Selena Gomez guy. I like That's just me.
I got it. DP says we're just Lil old Clemson still grinding.
Dude,
we're glad to have you here.
I love Clemson fans. DP, I love Clemson. I went to Clemson game. I went to the Clemson Florida State game actually about 6-7 years ago in my Ute year. You guys treated me right, so I always love you guys. Awesome stadium, great fan experience. Hey, just be little old Clemson, grind away and win championships, my man.
Oh, okay. So Rock and Rant is now saying computer crashed, fun, but back. So maybe you can't join. Oh well. All right, guys. I'm going to give you all. Let's do a sign out here. Let's get everybody's final comments about how this week went and what you guys think people should be paying attention to going into this weekend.
Yeah, start us off, Mac.
I would say keep an eye on the legal stuff leading into leaks. We're getting a lot of ideas, leaks, whatever we want to call them, that are starting to come from the ESPN camp. So I'm still got my eye on anything coming out of North Carolina Board of Governors. I think that could be important. Once they get into this game, it's game over. You might see them launching into a lawsuit for both North Carolina and North Carolina State. That would be very telling. So watch in that regard. There's some talk that the CFP may be starting to meet again, talking about that buildup for 2026. They need this worked out before they can do that. So keep a hold on it. I think we're going to be moving pretty quickly here in the next week or two.
Very good. Ute?
Basketball doesn't make money. Basketball doesn't make money. Basketball doesn't make money. So Big 12 fans, quit talking about basketball ads. It's driving Wild Ute absolutely loco. I can prove it to you. I can prove it to you that UConn makes $10 million in its basketball media rights, and they have $30 million in direct institutional support. So the school is funding the dang athletic department. Let's not lose our heads over this basketball stuff. We're not adding a basketball-only school. It's not a good plan financially. Let's not do it. Let's quit talking about it and let's go after the ACC schools and make good financial choices.
Moen.
Listen, there is no negotiation between ESPN and ACC and the SEC. It's customer allocation. It's against the law. Congress and the Department of Justice would shut it down in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Meet me afterwards on the Discord voice chat where I'm going to finish this bottle up.
And believe
Love
me,
you guys.
it might be a slow sip. So if you guys can keep mowing on Keel, he might be around for a while because he doesn't remember where he's at right now. So let's talk Georgia Tech at the end of the show here. Joaquin Morales again telling everybody, great show tonight. If you haven't done it yet, smash that like button before you leave. We thank everybody's comments tonight. Stay out of trouble, please. If you've been drinking, do not drive. And I hope you have a good weekend. It's been a good week here for us at College Football Mafia Network. Our next show will be Sunday night. That would be the Mowing After Dark, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Immaculate, are you going to be there with Mowing?
I am.
Okay, so there you go. You're going to get the full double treatment at Mowing After Dark. And then, of course, on Monday night, we have the Big West Mafia show with Sergeant Pickles and Becky. And that show's also at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Your comments and questions have been absolutely fantastic. One last comment here about we're talking Taylor Swift at Big 12 Mafia. She is talking about kids with him, and she moved in with him. He said she is never going back to New York. So,
whoop, whoop.
All right, Mary, I appreciate that.
I may say one thing leading up for Sunday. We might be talking about Texas A&M. Just leaving it at that.
Yes.
Okay, that's a major tease for sure. Everybody else, thanks for being here tonight. Again, one last time, let me post that link. Get over to that Discord server, join Mowing and Rock and Rant. And I don't know if you and Immaculate, you guys are obviously invited. Get in there and let's continue the conversation offline. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. Stay out of trouble and be good to your family this weekend, okay? I appreciate it. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Peace. Oh, and that's us singing, and we're still streaming. Bye-bye, everybody.